our constitutional mandate as Parliament to enact laws.
A very good day to you, and many thanks for joining us on our program Parliament and Governance on Independent Television. My name is Evan Subokogi. Well, today on the program Parliament and Governance, as usual, we'll take excerpts from the floor of the National Assembly and also see how it all went, for the past few days. Well, today on the program, we are going to be looking at the second edition of the sectoral debate held by the House of Representatives on NAIRA fall and, of course, hyperinflation in Nigeria. And in that debate, we are going to be seeing and also hearing from various stakeholders. When we talk about various stakeholders now, is as it relates to the Nigerian economy. First of all, we have the CBN boss talking about Yemi Kadoso, and also the chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, Zach Adedeji, and also too, the Minister of Budget and National Planning, Atiku Bagudu, was also on the floor of the National Assembly, on the floor of the House of Representatives, to give his explanation into the inflation situation in the country. Then we also have the Minister of Finance, Wale Edu, and above it all, we are also going to be starting with the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives and the person of Benjamin Kalu, whereby he speaks. Let's take a look.
Welcome to the program Parliament and Governance on Independent Television with me, Organic Victor. In this edition of the program, we are looking at the second edition of the sectorial debate held by the House of Representatives. Again, welcome on board.
We must all confront the stark reality of the economic, fiscal, and revenue challenges that our beloved nation, Nigeria, is currently facing. In a world of complexities and uncertainties, the path to fiscal integrity is not just a choice, but a necessity. It is the bedrock upon which the trust between the government and its people is built, and the foundation that supports the robust architecture of our nation or national economy. Fiscal integrity ensures transparency, accountability, and the prudent management of our nation's resources. It is our duty and responsibility to safeguard this, not just for the present generation, but for the future ones that will inherit the outcomes of our decisions today. Moreover, the essence of synergy cannot be overstated in our quest for economic stability and growth. The collaborative spirit that we foster within this hallowed chamber attests to the collective will and dedication of our House to steer our nation towards a brighter, more prosperous future. The interconnection between the Central Bank, the FIROS, the Ministry of Planning, and the Ministry of Finance embodies the holistic approach we must adopt to address the multifaceted challenges that confront us. Through synergy, we can align our strategies, consolidate our efforts, and amplify the impact of our initiatives. In the face of global economic shift and domestic challenges, it is clear that robust reform measures are not just beneficial but imperative. We are at a pivotal moment where the decisions we make and the policies we implement will impact the lives of millions of Nigerians. The reform we envisage should not only address the immediate needs, but also lay a foundation that is resilient with a dynamic framework that can adapt to future challenges and opportunities. These measures should stimulate growth. These measures should foster innovation. These measures should uplift the life of every Nigerian. As we engage in this sectorial debate, let us remember that the eyes of our nations are upon us, looking with hope and expectations for outcomes that will reinforce the pillars of our economy, safeguard our fiscal integrity, and ensure a prosperous and inclusive future for our nation, Nigeria. In the face of the numerous daunting challenges facing our constituents, including hunger and worsening inflation, the role of the Parliament is not just an oversight, but of active, visionary leadership. It is our responsibility to legislate, it is our responsibility to debate and meticulously craft policies that will address these issue-based engagement.
Welcome back. The House of Representatives is complaining that the economy of the nation is nosediving, and this is taking a dangerous toll on the populace. In this edition of the second outing of the sectorial debate, the House has decided to invite the four major players in the nation's economy. That is, the Federal Inland Revenue Service, the Central Bank of Nigeria, Ministry of Finance, and of course, Budget and National Planning. We will now bring you the outcome of the sectorial debate with these four key players in the nation's economy. Stay tuned.
The urgency of the matter is not lost on us at the Central Bank. And I really want to assure you that we're working tirelessly with colleagues from across government, including with the leadership of this House, to bring lasting solutions. Given that this will be the first time I'll be before this esteemed body this year, 2024, please permit me to just very briefly provide you with what we consider our outlook for 2024. Global outlook. I will not bore you with too much of those details, given the time challenge, but I'll conclude in saying that globally, the landscape continues to be very challenging, and that key policy priorities involve ensuring durable inflation reduction, addressing fiscal pressures, and fostering sustainable and inclusive growth. The global monetary policy environment is expected to remain restrictive until sustained inflation reduction becomes evident. Obviously, that has huge repercussions for us in Nigeria. Governments around the world must grapple with rising fiscal pressures, necessitating credible medium-term fiscal frameworks to effectively manage debt burdens. On the domestic outlook, which I know is very important to all of us, we know and remember that the federal government of Nigeria anticipates a 3.76% real GDP in 2024, slightly surpassing the estimated 3.75% in 2023. This optimism is backed by key government reforms and the expectation of improved crude prices and production, which are set to drive economic growth. Inflationary pressures are expected to decline in 2024 due to the CBN's inflationary targeting policy, aiming to rein in inflation to 21.4%, aided by improved agricultural productivity and easing global supply chain pressures.
Before the implementation of the 8-point agenda of the President began, we were in an unsustainable place in terms of the fiscal situation of Nigeria. We were on the road to economic disaster. We had expenditure which was wasteful and unsustainable by way of the subsidy, not just on fuel, but the subsidy on foreign exchange, which confused the incentive framework, and people were chasing cheap dollars in order to make instant profits.
This has serious impact in the last 7 months of our collection because the rates that we use and also the wastage, so to say, from subsidy payment we were able to curtail that. So we have overperformance from both the VAT collection and company income taxes because of most especially those that are dollar-based. We have challenges in collection from our oil production, from oil taxes, and this is in connection with the low production compared to what we planned for in the budgets. All other type of taxes did well, most especially education tax, because we over that one by more than 290%. that we used to do, that we overperform in educational tax that we've collected. So this is the way we've done in the last 1 year, and as a result of that, we have the target for this year, based on the approved budget, to collect 19.2 trillion, which is 7.2 trillion more than what we actually collected this year. And given this economic condition and with the promise of Mr. President that we are not going to introduce additional tax, we are not going to increase any tax, considering the situation and welfare of our people, that what we need to do is to re-strategize within to make sure that we bring more people into tax net.
One that we are most familiar with, 36 states of Nigeria plus FCT, agricultural production is a major component, and as well as other activities for which infrastructure, for which funding has been generously provided in the budget. But this, in implementing this, we need more cooperation, particularly from the National Assembly members. The federal government have nominated a number of projects which you graciously approved. Literally, our budget was slightly, just with slight modification and understandable. Mr. President, being the Democrat that he is, appreciate the National Assembly have the right. Okay. But the National Assembly have nominated projects in the budget, rightfully so, consistent with your representation and powers, and also the ability to contribute to appropriation. But that's where now, in implementing that, we want to prioritize those projects, both on the federal and the National Assembly side, that will stimulate economic activity as quickly as possible.
All right, thank you so much. So we're back on set now, and our guest on our program today, we're so privileged to have the medical director of GNAD, a specialist hospital in Benin City here, and also a public affairs analyst, somebody that is very interested when it comes to national issues. I'm talking about Dr. Leonard Atsikide. So welcome to the program Parliament and Governance.
It's a pleasure, Evans.
Okay. All right, so we saw what happened recently, whereby various stakeholders had to be grilled by the House of Representatives to kind of find an explanation into what is happening in the country. I mean, a situation whereby some have targets that there's actually a NAIRA fall. As we speak now, the exchange rate of NAIRA to a dollar goes above 1,200 NAIRA. And the inflation in the country is so hyper in the sense that it is calling for attention from the federal government. From your own point of view, what do you think is going on in the country economically as it relates to the economy?
Well, thank you, Evans. If I understand clearly what inflation means, inflation simply means that there is a astronomical increase in the prices of goods and services. When you now use the word hyper, that means excessive. That means there is a continuous increase in the cost of items and services, and it's not abating. It's just continuous. You buy something today through NAIRA, by the next day you can't get the same amount, and we don't know when it's going to end. And I think there are several things that are happening. Some are glaring to us, some we don't know. Looking at possible causes of inflation now in our country, for example, when you continue to increase wages, when there is decreased production, when taxes are raised, all this will bring about inflation. If I look back, at least from Udoji Award, then I was primary school. And I remember that after they paid the Doji Award, yes, salary increased, but that also brought about some inflation. And we have consistently, almost on yearly basis, we begin to have increase of wages and what have you. But there is no commensurate increase in production. Of course, when many hands are competing for fewer goods, what do you expect? There's going to be increase in the price of those services. If you look at especially the recent withdrawal of fuel subsidy, which came in suddenly, yes, I am not against the removal, because from what they made us to know, some people were benefiting from it, and the common people were suffering. As soon as that was done, the prices of goods increased. Petrol, that everybody depends on for movement in this part of the world, in fact, it is still increasing. And with all this, but once prices of transportation increases, of course, if I go to market to buy anything, I must add the cost of transportation. And of course, the goods, the price of such goods will increase. And again, when you pump in money into circulation unnecessarily, of course, you will not have plenty of money, but only able to buy fewer goods.
Okay. Now, in that sectoral session that we saw a while ago, we saw various reasons that the stakeholders gave, and they also give their own points of view on what the federal government is doing, most especially the Minister of Finance and also the Minister of Budget and National Planning, trying to give their own opinion on what the federal government is doing. But let's take a look one more time at what the federal government seems to be planning. We understand that a tripartite committee has been, put together to actually, at the end of the day, to see that what can be the living wage of Nigerians, because there's hyperinflation, there's no doubt about that, and the implication of that is that the little money that Nigerians have now, it cannot go for cost of food and social services in the country. So this tripartite committee now, Nigerians are suggesting XYZ amount that should be the living wage. From your point of view, what would you want to suggest?
You see, no matter the amount they pay, inflation will still catch up with it and even go beyond it. For example, I think minimum wage is still about 30,000.
30,000.
Now, for a family of 4, 30,000 cannot carry them for 1 week now. You see, there are a lot of things I think government and all these policy makers should do. I see them just speaking grammar. For example, Nigeria forests are no longer safe for farmers. I used to know in the north, there used to be cotton production in large scale. But now, travel from here to Kano and see how many of such farms you will find. Our people in Edo, for example, we produce yams, we produce cassava, and what have you. But now, these people can no longer go to the farm. So you have, the population is increasing, food production is decreasing, there is plenty, well, in quote, plenty of money in circulation, but that money is unable to buy the essential goods and services. For example, you go to hospitals, some hospitals, for you to collect a card, it's 20,000 naira. And these are public hospitals. Yet, you pay a man 30,000 naira in a month. But he goes to the hospital, is ill. For him, he will take a card, or 20,000, how much is left of his salary?
Just consultation.
Good. Now, and you see, some of these sudden deaths you are seeing around, some of them are caused by this same problem of inflation. Because the man, of course, has received his salary, but he has calculated what the family is going to eat, and you discover that the salary can carry him. To me, increasing wages is not the solution to the problem we have in this country. All the factories we have, textile companies that we had in Lagos, we had in Kaduna. Of course, the one in Benin, I didn't even come to meet it here.
We had one sometime ago at Sabah, good, just state now.
And none of these factories are working. Now, ideally, if these factories were there, people will produce the raw material for these factories. But even if there is somebody producing those raw materials, there's no market for it.
Okay, now, the dollar is not a legal tender in Nigeria. There's no way that the dollar is a legal tender here. But you discover that there seems to be this over-dependence on the dollar. I mean, everybody talks about the dollar. It appears that the dollar is now a legal tender. So what do you think the federal government can do so that we can reduce this over-dependence on the power of the dollar? When the dollar fluctuates up, it affects the economy.
You see, from the little I have known or that I've heard concerning this dollar issue, you see, you entrust people with responsibility, but they go doing the contrary. Now you appoint a central bank governor instead of, doing the property to ensure that the economy stabilizes. It just changes the people. They share the dollars among themselves, sell it to Malam on the street. Malam charges higher and makes return to them.
Well, all those are allegations.
The allegation. Yeah. But it's in reality. When you see a central bank governor collecting nomination for 100 million, how much is his salary? How much is his salary? If you see bank managers living flamboyant lives, of course, these are some of the problems we have. Now, I watched a video recently of somebody spraying bundles of dollars as high as, in this country. Well, I heard that one artist was spraying the NAIRA and they arrested her.
Well, in that video we saw a while ago, the CBN governor also even said that because of this overdependence of Nigerian students abroad, paying their school fees in dollars and all that.
The dollars, see, those who spend money, they believe that in Naira, instead of you to spend 1,200 Naira, you spend $1.
So the Naira cannot carry the value
exactly
of the money they spend.
Let's say, for example, you need 100 million. It's just for you to convert that to the dollar, you put it in your pocket. And you are going about. So, less security risk. Those who spend the money, they prefer to carry the dollar around. They give you $1, it's equivalent to 1,000 plus. And not just spending, they withdraw it to where it's supposed to be and keep it in their houses. And nobody is asking any question.
Okay, so as we draw the conclusion on this program today, now one of the most striking inflationary rates as at last year by the NBS, that's the Nigeria Bureau of Statistics, was at it was at 27.82%. That was as at September last year. And from the way it stands now, the inflationary rate in the country has risen above 30.52%. To 30. So you can imagine. So what the experts are saying is that Nigerian government should look inward. But again, some people will also tell you that it is not just enough for Nigerian government to look inward. I mean, Nigerian economy is not a single tree in the forest. It is interrelated. Other nations affect our economy. Other economies evolve. Other nations also affect our economy. So if that is the case, what do you think the federal government can do?
You know why our economy depends so much on other nations? We are not producing anything. So we buy virtually everything from other nations. And if we are buying, of course, we need the dollar to buy.
We will dollarize our economy.
Of course. Because if we produce the basic things that we need here, including foodstuff, rice here is about 70-something
About 76,000 naira.
And that means the man will work for 3 months before he can buy 1 bag of rice for the family. And the bag of rice will not last for 3 months. So if we don't go back to the basics of producing, one, what we eat, producing the basics amenities that we need, producing, even when it comes to, in those days, if our textile companies produced most of the wares we were putting on. But now you can't get anywhere.
So the bottom of it is that we have to go back to production.
We must go back to the production. Because if you don't produce, you will now depend on other nations for your survival. You depend on other nations.
Okay.
And what they bring to you, they determine by what means you are going to pay them.
All right, so I want to say a very big thank you to you, the medical director of Gina Medical Specialist Hospital in Benin City here, Dr. Leonard Achille. Thank you so much for finding time.
Thank you, Evans.
All right, so that's the show today. But just before we go, let's go over to my co-anchor now in Abuja.
Well, that has been the sectoral debate with the 4 major players in the nation's economy. I am Organic Victor. Join us again next week for another fresh edition of the program, Parliament and Governance.